Hello everyone and welcome back to our second F125 comparison video. Yes, a few days ago we had a quick look at obviously the new LiDAR version of the Suzuka circuit and compared it to iRacing's admittedly quite old laser scan of the track. Now, we learned quite a lot from that video. There were some things that F125 did absolutely fantastically, other things that I thought iRacing personally still did a better job with. But today, we're going to be comparing F125's version of Miami with last year's game as well. So I've gone in, I've done a lap in the cockpit camera in the McLaren car inside F124, obviously comparing it against the run done by Oscar Piastri inside the F125 game. Of course, just a couple of quick things before we dive in, kind of looking at the real differences. Of course, remember that my lap was done actually in time trial mode. The one that was done obviously by them was actually in game mode. So I've tried to line up the footage as best as I can, but don't read too much into lap times or gearing or anything like that, because I've got no idea what setup they were using for the F125 preview. But yeah, pretty much immediately though, one of the things I did learn from kind of setting up and getting the footage for this was that F124's version of Miami was already pretty accurate. I'm quite surprised this was one of the circuits they picked for a LiDAR update inside F125. But you can see freeze frame immediately though, before we get into it. It looks like even the grandstands are pretty much exactly the same position as they were inside F124. Now, the footage from F125 is slightly ahead early on in the lap, but then they do sync up pretty nicely. In fact, I think actually F124 ends up ahead by the end of it. Now, I really tried to have a look through the first few corners as to whether there were any kind of major changes. I really couldn't see anything kind of noticeable until we get down in towards turn 4 and turn 5. Now, the apex of turn 4, the curbing on the inside there, identical, it seems like, between both games. But actually, as you make your way in towards turn 5, of course, on F124, a kind of almost sausage curb on the inside of the apex there. On F125, just like real life this year, that curb is completely flat. Of course, we saw all the drivers during the IRL weekend able to obviously absolutely ride that curb, both through the entry and through the exit, and then into turn 6 as well. You can see again, you've kind of got that weird lip on the F124 sausage curb, whereas on F125, again, it's completely flat. It's going to obviously mean that lap times are going to be a lot quicker around this circuit as well there. And I also found that they moved the gantry back ever so slightly. Clearly, they felt it wasn't in the perfect spot inside F124. Now, in towards the next couple of corners, though, again, you can kind of see we've obviously got that sausage curb on the inside there to stop your corner cutting. That seems to be fairly similar between the two games, and then on the exit of the corner as well. It feels like it was altered for 2025 IRL, but obviously the scan that's in F125 is from 2024, so that sausage curb on the exit out onto the back kind of straight, if you will. IRL now seems to be a lot flatter, but both in F124 and in F125, the game, it seems to be pretty similar still. I tried to have a quick look. There seems to be more cable cars. They mentioned it on the F125 gameplay, so I thought I'd bring it up here. I did try and do a bit of a quick count, and there seems to be a few more inside the F125 game as well. And then you can see, for example, there just seems to be a little bit more detail around this side of the circuit. Of course, they'll have gone back, they'll have gathered up more data, more photography, and obviously more scans of obviously everything surrounding the circuit as well. But like I said, you know, F124, it was only when I kind of went back through that you realised just how accurate that the game was, you know, before obviously all of these major updates. Now, there are still a few more tweaks and changes in the second half of the lap as well. As you can see, it seems like we've got no curbing now on the inside through this kind of weird second, third gear hairpin that obviously we did have on F124, so that might mean that for you guys, a reference points has disappeared as well. And then also on the exit, a really good change that I like as well, which always felt weird in the games. There's none of this runoff anymore inside F125. You've got the curb, and you've got the wall. This was really the section of the track where I noticed the biggest changes as well. Of course, on F124, again, you've got another sausage curb that on F125 has been eliminated. Also, the wall seems to obviously be there until up towards the curb, and then has been moved away as well. So you might not nick your rear wheel on the inside wall as often as you would have done before. And also this area seems to feel really wide open on F125 as well. And it actually feels like, because I think there's less clutter around the circuit, it kind of feels like there's a bigger run between the chicane and the next corner as well. Now, it looks fairly similar between the two games. Like I said, there's actually a lot less detail in F125 around here, but I think they kind of just thrown a load of trees in for the sake of it as well. But by the time you make your way through, of course, you've got that bollard on F125 that doesn't exist on F124. So that kind of removes, adds even, I should say, an extra reference point as well. And you can see as you come off onto the back straight as well, everything around here are looking all but identical as well. You can see we've got an extra wall on the outside as well on F125, just again kind of making the circuit, feel more realistic, a more accurate representation of what we've got IRL. Trying to spot your braking point though down in towards the final corner. In F125 there's actually a couple of extra braking markers as well. I believe it goes all the way from 200, I want to say. Yeah, there you go. You can see the 200 meter board on F125, whereas on F124 you've only got 150, 100, and of course 50 as well. So ever so slightly easier. I find myself occasionally out-braking myself in towards the final couple of corners. And then again, the run out of the final corner, everything looks to be identical. There seems to be like a gazebo setup in F124 that doesn't exist again inside F125. And then finally, last but not least, one more sausage curb that has been removed inside F125 there, and you can see a little bit of a different curbing on the inside as well. So unlike Suzuka, where there were kind of quite a few big differences between like iRacing's version and the F125 version, the difference between 24 and 25 mainly seems to be curbing, mainly seems to be kind of a little bit of decluttering and a couple of walls being moved through the end of the second sector as well. But again, really, really interesting to kind of take a deep dive, have a bit of a look at kind of what they've tweaked and changed ready for the new game as well. Personally, I'll be honest, in hindsight of doing this video, I think it's a little bit of an odd choice to have picked Miami to kind of alter, but I get, I think based on the circuits, obviously, that are being changed for F125, it wouldn't surprise me if we kind of get like another chunk of like 7 or 8 circuits, kind of from round 8 to round 16, basically the European leg of the real life season. That's what I think they're doing with these, is obviously going through, doing like the first chunk of the season last year, the middle chunk of the season for obviously for next year's game, and then hopefully like the final third of the World Championship for F1 2027 as well there. But yeah, let me know your thoughts and feelings down below. Let me know if I missed anything as well from this video, or kind of if you guys have got anything else you want to see from F1 25. But yeah, that's going to do us for this one though. Get yourselves subscribed. We're mighty close to 140k, and we'll be back very soon with more Formula 1 content.